All right, welcome back. It has been far too long. The week before Christmas, I had no internet, then travel across the country to Virginia, and now we are back after the first round of college football playoffs. We have to talk about bowl games. We have to talk about the playoffs. We have to talk about recruiting, transfer portal, you name it. We're going to dive into it. And as always, I'm joined by these gentlemen. Guys, how we doing this evening? Let's just go down the line. PGJ and then Drew.
What's going on? Time for a national championship. I'm excited for this one. Y'all can find me on YouTube, The PG Show, all one word, Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you listen to those podcasts at. I'm usually there.
Yeah, y'all know who it is. It's Jay, Unfair Sports. You can find me on YouTube. Follow me on the X Bird at Unfair Sports and find me wherever podcasts are downloaded and listened to. I got my toothbrush back. Now that Ty actually has internet, I can actually show back up at his house on a regular basis. And so now we're back to doing what we do best.
Nice.
Talking college football.
Absolutely. Hey, Coach Drew England, former podcaster, but taking a break since I got back really into coaching and stuff. But I always like to pop on with you guys and talk some football. But yeah, exciting, like PG said. Gonna have a couple good playoff games and stuff, and a good national championship to look forward to. But yeah, just excited to be here again with you guys.
Man, happy y'all are here. Steven, James, thank you for joining in. If you're in here, go ahead and drop into the comments. We talk all college football and are happy to have you here. Neo in here. Great Christmas and New Year's. Neo, Topher, happy you're here. Well, we're going to dive into this first thing. Around the table talk, my sadness. Right? We're going to go ahead and get into my sadness. Because Alabama Michigan yesterday. It was a really fun game. I had to miss parts of the first half as I was on a flight back from Virginia to Texas, but sat in the lift the way home, watched it, got here, watched it, and then rewatched the first half and the second half this morning. Day, thank you for joining in here. Happy New Year's to you and yours as well. Where do I begin with this, guys? Michigan's defense, and Jay, you and I had talked about this at length. We knew Michigan's defense was good. Right, that was something that wasn't a question. How good remained to be seen, but we knew they were good, very good. Michigan's offense, I didn't think would match up well against Alabama, and for the most part, Alabama's defense showed up, but Michigan's defense continued to put pressure on this Alabama offense. Alabama's offense went nowhere, and the one thing I'm going to say for Michigan, not only did they stick to their offensive game plan and end up finding success, especially that last drive. Right, when the moment was the biggest, that's when J.J. McCarthy and that offense, they had the most success. They were able to get back in the game and then ultimately put it away, and that's what it calls for, right? If you are having trouble all game, when the moment matters the most, you show up, they get you a W. But their defense was very impressive. I mean, we looked at the grades earlier on Twitter about Alabama's offensive line, and the left side of Alabama's offensive line in the center position really struggled. I think the center had a Pro Football Focus grade of a 22, right? In terms of 9 bad snaps. Drew, you were pointing it out to me in the green room, 4 really bad ones in bad times. You're not going to beat a team like Michigan if you're having those miscues. And that's not to say Michigan didn't have miscues either. Their special teams struggled and they still pulled out a win. So they were able to take advantage of the opportunities they generated, even though they too weren't able to take care of all the opportunities. They took care of more. Guys, at the end of the day, I think it was a fantastic game. Of course, as an Alabama fan, I'm disappointed in the result, but I like that Alabama showed up. They competed. It was a close game. And I think when we look at how this year went as a whole, you have your head held high if you're Alabama. No, it's not the result you wanted. We all know the national championship aspirations were what this team had. But I don't think many people would have thought, guys, that after week 3, Bama was even going to be in a college football playoff position after that USF game and then after losing to Texas. But they battled through. They got better, and they made it. Hats off to Michigan. That defense is fantastic. J.J. McCarthy got it done when it mattered, and they've got really talented running backs there. Guys, I want to open it up to y'all. Thoughts on that game yesterday?
Real quick, I wanted to point out 2 things, and then we can go back down the line. You can come back to me last. But there was 2 things that jumped out to me in this game. And Ty, we talk about this a lot. And there's a particular reason why I don't like freshmen playing. because Proctor, he kept getting baited by that edge. I can't think his name, but he would hit him with a move.
He tore a ligament in his ankle the week before, and I don't know why he was playing, but I just don't think they have faith in anybody else. But I completely, we have that conversation all the time, and you're 100% right.
That's what it. And so if that injury was there and that was something that they noticed in film, they kept baiting it. They baited the hell out of him on certain moves and kept cutting right inside. And it was like, take him out, please. You're letting him get abused. He's not this bad. He's never this bad. And so if that's based upon an injury, Michigan did a fantastic job of exploiting it and going after it. The second thing is, and I talk about this like crazy, and Ty, we talked about this via text, and like you mentioned earlier, Michigan's defense is real. Like, everything about them physically, the physicality of that offensive line, shout out to Sharon Moore, former Sooner, they're physical. Defensive line, they're physical. Like, they're the team that you hate to play because it's just so physically exhausting to go against them. So that's really the two things that jumped out the most to me in that game. Is just Michigan's hella physical, and I don't like freshmen playing.
Well, gentlemen, before I open it up to PG and Drew, we are joined by another Alabama fan. And Jance, we opened this up by around the table talk, my sadness. I want you to give your opinion, but we're going to change this. There we go. Now it's more fitting. Jance.
Go ahead, Bama fan.
I'm much more calm compared to how I was yesterday. But you know what? Nothing shocked me. This is exactly how we played all season. It finally just caught up with us. I thought that we got out coached, we got out schemed, and for the most part, at least in the first half, they dominated us physically. I thought we did a really good job of kind of handling the pressure. I thought that Tyrese and Kevin Steele did a good job of making adjustments in the second half, because in the third quarter, Michigan only had, I think, 39 yards in the third quarter. But Michigan, I mean, this was not Michigan's best game. This wasn't our best game. Both teams, for the most part, just failed to execute when it mattered most into the fourth quarter. But Michigan was able to win in the last half of the game was because they had a game plan that was much more sustainable than ours. When you look at our game plan offensively, I mean, for the most part, we tried to bully Michigan with the power run scheme. When we know we don't really do that. We are a zone scheme type football team, but the problem is that when you have a bunch of 330, 40-pound dudes that can barely move, barely has the athleticism to keep around with these Michigan dudes. And by the way, Michigan, they didn't really do that much special. You know what Michigan ran for the most part? They ran almost the exact same stunts that teams pulled off in the first 4 to 5 weeks. I have no idea why teams decided to not go with the stunts that gave Alabama fits and troubles in those first 4 to 5 weeks. They decided to kind of go away with it. I think Georgia, of all teams, looking at Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann, they decided they weren't really doing that much often. They tried to beat the Alabama man up, and it fitted exactly what they did because in a power run scheme, Alabama can absolutely win. And you even saw it in this game. Right, take away the Jalen Milroe sack numbers, because I don't know why sacks go against rushing yards. That's just stupid, and I think that's something that they should take away. But if you take away the 46-yard loss that came from Jalen Milroe, Alabama has over 200 yards rushing against this football team. So we did a much better job once we actually played power gap football. We did a much better job. We were opening up holes. I thought Tyler Booker, that was his biggest strength, because besides that, in pass pro, he got whipped. Jaden Roberts got whipped in pass pro. Caden Proctor was just confused. We couldn't really pick up a lot of their stunts, a lot of their disguise and delayed blitzes. Just a lot of the things that gave us trouble in the last 4 to 5 weeks. That's exactly what Michigan was able to prevent to the table. So, again, I'm just listening to other guys. Christian Miller, he had a very interesting take of saying that he can just tell that this team just wasn't prepared for the type of scheme. And it's pretty evident because the first 4 to 5 weeks, this offensive line just could not gel together. And as soon as we played against teams that kind of didn't present that presence, present that type of look, then we did a much better job of gelling. But yeah, it's been a problem all season long. Jalen Milroe not getting off the initial read, not getting off that first read quick enough. because there were times where there were guys open. Jermaine Burton, there were 3 times I counted he was wide open deep. That again, he wasn't the initial read, he was the second read, but for some reason Jalen Milroe could not get off of there fast enough. He did not go for the underneath. He kept going towards the check down way too early when there were other reads that were open. The underneath with Amari Niblack. There were some crossing routes. There were some corners, some out routes to some of our other receivers that Jalen Milroe just couldn't see. Now, I can't put it all on Jalen Milroe because at the end of the day, I thought that Tom Reeves did not do a good job of utilizing his talent, especially in that first half. You could have tried to roll out Jalen Milroe out. You could have tried to use his athletic skill set towards advantage, but you wanted to let him hang in that pocket. You wanted to make him look like a pocket passer. You wanted to make him look smart, make him look like Drew Brees and look smart whenever that. And they were collapsed in the pocket. Seth McLaughlin got his ass kicked for 90% for 100. I would say 100% of the time, including 90% of the time was literally low snaps. But people act all surprised, like, well, why does Seth McLaughlin stink? He's been doing it all year. All season long, Seth McLaughlin has been piss poor when it comes to low snaps. Right? I thought that Jalen Milroe should earn the Golden Glove. You would think that Jalen Milroe may be Shohei Ohtani, the way that he keeps catching low snaps every single play, every single snap for every freaking game. It's been like that. So it is what it is, guys. I mean, like I said, we were out coached, we were out schemed. Give Michigan a lot of credit. Their offense, Sherrod Moore did a masterful job, especially what he was able to do in the second half. The only issue with Michigan was that I thought they got a little bit too cute with a lot of their gadget plays. They ran a lot of misdirection. They ran those counters. They ran a lot of pin and pull with their offensive linemen. They just did a much better job schematically. Alabama's defense was bend and break. Give credit to Kevin Steele and how they're able to present to the table. I don't even blame Alabama's defense for what they played in that second half, because you know what this game was reminiscent of? It was reminiscent of the Texas game. The exact same situations, the exact same scenarios that played out in that Texas game happened in this game. The offense stunk up the joint until the fourth quarter when they were finally able to get the lead. Then the defense is already gassed out because they're on the field for the majority of the time. Then they can't stop a cold. And then when you need your offense to go ahead and make plays to get it right back to you, they couldn't do it at the end of the day. So nothing really surprised me. James Burnup, Will Reichert, best special teams unit as far as kicker and punter duo that we've probably ever had in the university, wasted. So it is what it is, guys. I mean, we play like crap. I mean, we play like this all season long. Sooner or later, it was going to catch up to us. So, Michigan won. They were the better team, and just better luck next year.
Chance, one point that you made about that Alabama game was Alabama didn't do what Washington did in that game, was to roll out Penix, was to get those guys, not giving them a clear track to the quarterback. And you saw with Swift and you saw with some of those big diva Murphy, they had 2 tackles total between both of them the whole night because they were moving the pocket. They were allowing Penix to do what he did best. And Penix, I mean, he has 2 bum knees, 2 ACLs, and still was able to take off and make some plays when he needed to. And so that was my thing, was my biggest takeaway from Alabama's offense was, why didn't they allow Milroe to get out and do what he does best? And also, you didn't have that big deep shot that you did in the first half, that one big play that they had there. But then Michigan started adjusting and said, all right, if you guys are just going to give us an offensive line right there and not move the pocket, we'll take it. We'll stunt you. We'll put 2 double A gap. We'll do all kinds of different things until you guys can block it up. And I thought that Alabama never had an answer for that. And I was like, okay, after the second half, we're going to see some adjustments from Nick Saban and some of these, but we didn't. And and kudos to Michigan with not only the scandals and stuff that are going on, but they continue to play through this adversity. They continue to play through the naysayers. They continue to, win games despite all the controversy. And, it did not look like the same Alabama team that took the field against Georgia. And I want to ask you guys this, and I'm sure you guys have talked about this as Alabama fans. How much longer is Nick Saban gonna be there? And it looks like to me he's just not enjoying coaching football anymore. He looks like he's not enjoying this, NIL and everything that college football is now. And for me, I'm not gonna put a thing on. I'm not gonna say he's gonna retire or anything like that. But it sure looks like to me that the old Nick Saban is slowly getting tired of the new college football.
Let me two questions in here. One, Sooner Legends podcast. Thank you for being in here, my man. He asked, was the loss yesterday the reason Dallas Turner declared for the draft? No, he was a first round grade anyways. I mean, he was probably going to be a top 15 pick. You look at what Will Anderson is doing in the NFL right now, and Dallas Turner's putting up massive numbers. Now, the loss yesterday was the reason for some of the frustrations that he voiced, right, in that interview. But hey, I've been someone who's adamantly said that I like the fact that this team expresses their mind in the manner that they've done it. So it'd be hypocritical of me, even though I didn't like when the comments came, it'd be hypocritical of me to not also then be like, same logic for Dallas Turner. But no, Sooner, I think he was going to the NFL regardless. Alabama had been prepping for him to head to the NFL regardless. And then Stephen G asked, Ty and Jance, is the dynasty dead? Now, I don't mean this as a cop-out, Stephen. It's just the debate in me. Clarification is when you say dynasty, are we talking like every year guaranteed national championship, or are we talking about every year you're competing for a national championship? Because I don't think that Bama's done competing for national championships. I just think that teams are getting really good, right? Like whenever you have a team dominate for so long, you either have coaches that accept it or you have coaches that push the needle and try and match that. Well, we've had a decade of Nick Saban running this. Kirby's pushing the needle. Jim Harbaugh is pushing the needle. There are several coaches pushing the needle. So I think it depends, right, Stephen? I don't think Alabama's done competing for national championships, but there are a lot of good teams now. Guys, PG, Jay, what do you think?
I was going to say, I want to add to that real quick and then pass to PG to give his thoughts, and then I'll wrap us up on the Bama game. But as far as the dynasty goes, we're learning more and more the value of a quarterback that can really do their own thing, ones that aren't hamstrung by their offensive coordinator sometimes. Because, at the beginning of the season, we talked about this with Milroe. Reese wasn't using them right? Like he wasn't using them enough. He wasn't having them move enough. He wasn't having enough design runs to really leverage his strengths to force the defense to adapt. He wasn't. But as the season progressed, you started to notice he started to adapt it. In this game, you start to ask questions about what's up with this play call? And Eric asked that QB run straight up the middle 4 yards from the goal line. Normally I understand it, but when you know that your offensive line is getting pushed around in certain scenarios by the defensive line, don't put your quarterback in that scenario. Let him roll out, force the defense to shift. Hell, use a little misdirection, something. But overall, it's showing you more and more how important quarterback play is. So is the dynasty dead? I don't think that the dynasty of winning national championships once every 2 years, yes. Once every 5 years, no. Competing for them every year, absolutely not. They'll win at least 11 games every season moving forward still.
Yeah. Let me add to that real quick. Let me add to that real quick. Is the dynasty over? I compare Alabama's dynasty a lot to what Tiger Woods did in golf. The dude was winning tournaments left and right and all that through that period, and everybody was like, "Oh, well, is the dynasty?" He's still played at a high competitive level. Alabama is still playing at a high competitive level. It's not like they dropped and went 5-7. And I think too many people are saying, because they're not winning national championship, it's a failure. Well, there's only 5 or 6 programs in the country that their standards are up there like that. If you're not winning, if you're not competing for national championships, that's the standard. And Alabama, that's been their standard even before Nick Saban got there. It's national championship or bust every single year for programs like Alabama, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Texas, yada, yada, yada. And I think that's just where it is. It's the nature of the beast that Alabama has created for their football program. And when you don't live up to it, you're going to get critics and you're going to get people saying, oh, well, the dynasty's over. Well, the dynasty, it can't be over because it's history. It's what they've done. Yeah. Are they going to, falter to a 10-win season every once in a while? Sure. But I think that they're still recruiting at a high level and they're still doing what Alabama does. And I think teams have closed the gap on them, like you've mentioned, Kirby Smart and Georgia and a few other teams. But that's just the nature of the beast right now with the NIL and everything going on in the transfer portal.
You know what's funny? Zelfix posted in this, the dynasty not dead, just seem to be going downhill. I'm sorry, 12-2 isn't downhill.
That's not downhill, man.
Like downhill is if it
that's
was like
downhill for Alabama.
9-3. If there was a 9-4 season, yes, I'd say there's probably going downhill.
2
What,
losses to 2
double-digit
playoff
wins?
teams too.
Yeah.
Right,
Yep.
right. Both losses were to the playoff teams. It wasn't to teams that didn't even sniff a good bowl game. Like it was
Yep.
to playoff teams. So-
Despite what Jance is talking about and the problems that they've had, not looking like Alabama, still winning 10 games. That's pretty damn good in my book.
yeah, you won the SEC championship, guys, against a team
Yeah.
that had won back-to-back national championships.
Yeah.
One of the first
Yep.
ones to do it since Bama did it back 10, 11 years ago. Like, yeah, I get the thought, I get the hyperbole around the idea of, oh, the dynasty is up. No, they're
Nope.
just not as dominant because other teams are actually paying attention to the one place that Bama lived in. The same thing that Georgia started living in. Oklahoma had its moments where it would live in it. LSU, when on its great years, it lived in it. The trenches. Ohio State, when they were at their highest, they lived in it. They focused on players in the trenches, getting strong, beating people up. Clemson, the trenches. That's what other teams are doing now. And right now, they just got a little bit of an upper hand. That's really it.
I want to answer this right here because it's a fair question. 17th Lord asked, shouldn't Georgia have gotten in if they were really picking the 4 best teams? I mean, they wouldn't have left back-to-back champion Bama if they were ranked 1 all year and got their first loss. If they would have lost to Georgia, who is a top 10 team, they probably would have gotten left out. Because while I agree with you, 17th, Georgia is a phenomenal team. There was no way you put them in the college football playoff after they lost in the SEC championship game to Alabama, because at that point, it's kind of hard to argue that they were the better team because they had the opportunity to show it and they didn't get it done. That being said, Georgia's a phenomenal team. I think Georgia is unbelievable, but that's the reason why I think it was even hard to argue saying, 4 best at the time because they were coming off of a loss to Alabama. Now they just kicked the teeth in FSU and, that is what it is, but that would be my take on that. PG, thoughts?
I've just been sitting here really quietly waiting to see if anybody says it. I mean, if Nick Saban gets himself a quarterback, which I think we all assume he has, and on the recruiting trail, y'all better watch out because, I mean, look at what Washington did with not a single 5-star on this team and one of the lower blue chip ratios that we've seen in the college football playoffs. All it takes is for you to have a really good quarterback, and you're likely going to be there. So you give Nick Saban a really good quarterback, he's probably going to go win a national championship. It's just that simple because they get the 5 stars, right? Which is what we're told you have to win a national championship. Well, Washington's playing in a national championship with 0. They just have a spectacular quarterback. So, but between the Alabama and Michigan game, I mean, I told Ty this in the green room. This is the matchup that I've waited for in the playoffs since the playoffs has developed. These are the kind of games that I want to watch. I want to watch these legendary blue blood programs go up against each other for a chance to play for the big game, right? We don't get to see a whole lot of these in the regular season. I mean, I was on edge to watch this Alabama and Michigan game all week. It is the game I wanted to watch. And I felt like it lived up to expectations. I mean, you got to watch a really gritty Michigan team that is super physical that I think a lot of people had questions about go in there and I think answer a lot of questions. And you got to watch a Bama team that I think a lot of people didn't expect to be there, go in there and actually compete a little bit. And I don't think
I feel they should have won the game. Me personally, we had 3 opportunities to win that game, and all 3 of them were because of penalties or because of a turnover.
Well, Michigan had done nothing up until that last drive of the 4th quarter.
Nothing.
Yeah, and I think
opportunity after opportunity
ran the ball a little bit more. I think they went away from their bread and butter that's gotten them where they are all season. But this is Nick Saban's best coaching performance. I watched that game yesterday, and I said, "Yeah, Nick Saban. This is I think the best Nick Saban we've seen."
Well, I got to give a shout out here, and this is this sent me, but
I just finished shaking my head, dog. I didn't know what to say. I really didn't know what to say. Like it's what?
Daddy comments around the table sports. Love the channel. Can I get a shout out? Today is my wife and her boyfriend's anniversary. Happy anniversary to the wife and the boyfriend. You sound like an Ian Gary situation over there. For those of you that are in the UFC, know that.
Hey, as long as Ian Gary's happy and Sean Strickland can just keep his mouth out of it, man, that's it. As long as they happy, that's all that matters.
Hey, no judgment over here, man. No judgment over here. Blood says Michigan was the more physical team in the trenches. You're not wrong, man. For the most part, you're definitely not wrong. No doubt about it. God,
Yeah, that was what I saw
Sydney.
the entire time. Yeah, that's what I
still
saw the
trying to
entire time,
recover.
really. And looking through, it was really that. It was just Michigan was imposing their will, and they're one of those teams you don't like playing against because it's just annoying. It's just they lean on you, they exhaust you, they're throwing every weight and pound they have on your body. And in that game, I mean, overall play calling, they look like the same Michigan all season long. Just slow, meticulous, run it down your throat, throw a pass here. And JJ McCarthy, man, he makes the plays when he needs to make the plays. Not all the time, but he makes them when he needs to. He's never in a rush. And that to me is so impressive because as I watch him more and more, I'm just like, okay, he's a 5-star. Why is he putting up all these gaudy numbers? But then you realize the way the offense is ran, you're like, oh, well, that's why. They just kind of just take their time. Their goal is to go out there and win with minimal errors. And hell, they still had the muff punt that made me think like,
And missed field goals.
And missed field goals. And you're just like, wait, how is that?
And they almost gave it
play.
to Caleb Downs on the first.
And
And
then
I
the
hate to make
interception,
this-
right?
No,
I
that
hate to
interception
make-
didn't count.
Yeah.
I hate to make this comparison because it's Alabama, but JJ McCarthy reminds me a lot of Greg McElroy when he was playing quarterback at Alabama, just doing what he needed to do to make plays and to just, I mean, not gonna wow you with anything, but he's gonna make plays in crucial moments and get it done. So that was one thing that I kind of saw out of him.
I will say
I've said
this
this at
though. I had a question. How in the world did this Michigan team last year lose to TCU? Can somebody answer that?
Oh, that's
'Cause,
pretty easy.
I mean,
JJ McCarthy, because they had 4 turnovers in that game. JJ McCarthy threw 2 pick sixes, and you know what TCU's offense did? They spread them out. They spread them out to death. That's what
Spread them
happened. You look at
Got
our
the ball
offense,
out quick.
got the ball out extremely quick, got it out to open space against the same against the same zone look, and they couldn't stop it. It was nothing they can do because as soon as they were versatile, as soon as they got some sort of momentum in the passing attack, it opened up the rushing game. And all of a sudden,
TCU had a
Michigan
pretty
was just
good
thrown off the
TCU had a
entire
pretty
game.
good defense too. So
We had a
that
whole bunch of
game's
super
on the
seniors.
rails.
They had a bunch of super seniors on TCU.
They did.
Plus, but that offense was just so explosive, right? Like it was just they were like just as Jan said, they just kept them so spread out. It was easy. But on top of that, like I think the other thing with the JJ McCarthy piece, and I said this to Ty, I'm a text on it. This Michigan team reminds me of the AJ McCarron Bama teams when it was all heavy run and just pushing people around. Just like, good God, it's all it was to me. This entire game was just physical, and I just cannot believe it.
just that 2014 Sugar Bowl. Yeah, I know what you mean. I got you.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, exactly that. It's craziness,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. 10 years ago today, but you know.
Fair point.
I'm typing.
Ty's gonna fight you. Ty's gonna fight you.
I
I'm
had
trying
to
to
throw it
focus
out
on
there.
type. I don't blame you. If I was you, I would have done the exact same thing. So
We-
touche.
We took the day off.
Yeah.
We kind of took we were in the office chilling.
Hey, I still don't. To this day, I still don't know how Trevor Knight did what he did, but you know, I'm glad he did it.
That's because we had one of the a slow defensive line, and it was just rough,
Yeah.
just rough.
Could we argue if Bama beats Michigan and Texas beats Washington, Bama loses in a rematch against Texas, but also if Michigan beats Bama, which they did, and Washington beats Texas. Yeah, I mean, listen, man, anything can happen in these games, no doubt about it.
I'll just straight it out right. We played Texas again, we would lose, just outright, because when I tell you the exact same scenario happened between Alabama and Texas compared to this game, it was the direct light of it. Offensive line struggling the inside. Jalen Monroe barely have any time to throw. When he does have time to, and when he's getting pressured, it's done because he can't go through the. This is the development part of Jalen Monroe. He's got to get better at. He's got to get better at going through these reads. He's got to get better of getting off of the first read, and he can't do it. We had at least Michigan dared us to throw the wide open out routes. We were in 12 flood concepts. Amari Nightblack was open 3 times underneath in situations where for the most part that was your initial check to throw. He couldn't see it because he was trying to get to the first read, and he just couldn't do it. He can't get off these reads quick enough. So he's got to get better at that. Another thing too, Seth McLaughlin would have got torn up by Devondre Sweat and Byron Murphy.
Yes,
again.
that's what worries
Just like
me.
Exactly. Torn up on the inside. And then Texas, the way that their offense is and the way that they can spread us out, yes, we would have stopped them. And yes, I thought we would do probably a better job of containing that Texas offense. But in the second half, when this defense is tired, our offense can't get things going because of our offensive line and the same issues that Michigan presented were the exact same things that Texas represented, would have been the exact same situation. Fourth quarter came, Texas probably would score a couple touchdowns. Maybe we can get one in there. It'll probably be a much closer game, but Texas will win 100%.
I'm just glad we don't have to do that scenario because I could not have handled a Texas win. There's no way I would have been able to do it.
Let's talk about that one. Let's transition out of the Bama game. We've talked a lot about that. Let's get into this Texas game because, gentlemen, I don't think that the story is anything to do with Texas, with all due respect to the Texas Longhorns. Michael Penix was unbelievable in that game. One of the more impressive performances I've seen. That guy was dropping dimes. Drew, you and I were talking about it before, Jance, you got in here in the green room. That throw where he weaved it between the linebacker and safety was
it was like a 3-yard gap.
Mm-hmm.
It was unbelievable from a different arm slot, from like a 3/4 arm slot. Like, it was unbelievable. And I hate to say this and compare it to the other team. It was Vince Young-esque in the Rose Bowl against, minus the running. But, I mean, he put some throws out there that would, like, a couple times to the tight end, threw it, layered the ball, had a couple passes right over the middle where, again, moving the pocket and allowing him to see those and scan the field is something that hats off to Washington and what they've done. And I would argue that Washington in their run game and obviously in the pass pro, yes, they have a good offensive line. They were more physical than Texas. And it's hard to say that when you got those 5-star guys up front, but 2 total tackles from Murphy and Sweat. I mean, that is holding their big defensive linemen to doing nothing. And the run game, and hopefully Williams will be back in the national championship game. But yeah, those receivers and what Washington did and their game plan to come out against Texas and not take their foot off the gas. I mean, they almost gave the game to Texas, but yeah, I mean, Michael Penix, tough to argue that not the best quarterback in the country.
I mean, Washington didn't allow a single sack that game, right? They only allowed 10 all season. I mean,
yeah, I mean, they're the Joe Moore award-winning offensive line, and it showed.
Yeah.
Jance,
I mean, like I said, I don't think I could have dealt with Texas getting to the national championship. Those fans would have been unbearable.
Well, you almost had to.
It'd have been insufferable. But no, I mean, I guess the real question is Michael Penix working himself up into that one of those top quarterbacks taken out of the draft? Like, I don't think he's going to be number 1, but like, could he be one of the top 3 off the board? Is he really doing that thing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean,
possible.
I think his biggest concern, obviously, is a team, and he's got the intangibles. He's got the ability to throw, but with what offenses are doing in the National Football League right now, is he going to have the ability to run around like he has in college with the injuries that he's had? That's going to be one, knock on him, is that, he's not going to have many years, I don't think, to do it. But, if he can go to a good organization and be able to stand back there and throw the football, I mean, the sky's the limit for him in the NFL. But if a team's going to ask him to continue to run around and be a dual threat, I don't think that he'll last, in the NFL with the way defenses are and a lot much faster or more faster than in college. So it's going to be interesting for sure.
Jance, thoughts on that Washington game, my man?
It was a masterful performance. This was the one game where I thought that Texas would lose in. I thought that this is just one of those situations where I think styles can make matchups. And if Texas, I'm not going to lie to you, if Texas would have played Michigan, I think Texas would have won that game. If they would have played us, I thought they would have won that game. I thought that this was the right matchup for Washington in order for them to get this win. And yeah, I mean, for the most part, they did not exactly what Oklahoma did to a T, but you can tell they watched that tape. You can tell that was the one game where they closely studied, because they've seen how as physical and how as good as that defensive front has been, they struggle when it comes to getting out in space. And what does Washington do better than anything else? Getting the receivers the ball, getting their playmakers the ball in open space. They're one of the best teams in the nation when it comes to screen efficiency. So that's exactly what they were able to do this game. But the deep throws, Rome Odunze, his ability to separate from these defenders, what we saw from McMillan, what we saw from Polk, their tight ends, this offensive line, and how they were able to kind of deal with that physicality. And I think the one thing too that really surprised me, T'Vondre Sweat did not play a lot in this game. Didn't play a lot. And this reminded me a lot of the 2021 SEC championship game when we played against Georgia. And we all knew that Jordan Davis that time was their best defensive lineman, but he didn't play a lot in that game. Why? Because of because of the type of scheme that we were running gave that defense fits. And his skill set was not best utilized in that game. And that's exactly the type of situation that happened with T'Vondre Sweat. So they did a good job of kind of keeping him out, and they took full advantage of it almost every single time that he was out. They did a good job of kind of neutralizing Byron Murphy, neutralizing a lot of their edges. And listen, Texas defensive line against the run made plays. These guys still made plays when they needed to make them, and you can see the athleticism and the talent that these guys have displayed. But Washington was I thought from an offensive standpoint, it was a master class, just an absolute master class by their offense, how they were able to kind of scheme guys wide open, how these receivers, their ability to separate. It's an NFL passing offense, man. Like it's an elite passing offense that I think that pretty much the only other team that could pretty much compete with that was Texas. The problem is that Quinn Ewers just hasn't really lived up to his potential for the entirety of the year, whether it's because of injuries or maybe that's just because of himself, but just hasn't really getting synced. I think that they could be a much more dangerous passing offense next year if Quinn Ewers can stay healthy. But Washington was just ready for the moment, and you got to give them a lot of credit where credit is due. And the Michigan game is going to be very interesting, man, because it's literally going to be a unique matchup of elite offense, elite passing offense versus elite defense, and their zone scheme of what they can do. So, but Texas, offensively, they blew opportunities. They had a lot of mistakes, man, on the offensive side of the ball, and give credit where credit is due. They fought back and they almost won the game because of Washington's piss poor special teams unit. But yeah, I mean, I overall wise, give credit where credit is due to Washington.
Let me ask you guys a question. Do you think Quinn Ewers was not 100%? Do you think he had a concussion there at the end of the game?
I don't really know because
they cleared him. I don't know.
Quinn Ewers has been playing his entire career.
But here's my theory, and it's something that I was thinking about towards the end of the game, and even just looking at him and seeing him there on the sideline. I get player safety, everything like that, and do you think he maybe was like, yeah, let's do it, or because no Malik Murphy and they didn't want Arch Manning to go in there and completely just pee down his leg or something like that? Do you think that they put Ewers in to spare that expense and leave him in there?
Are you going off of his reaction to the ending of the game when the Washington players on the field and he's kind of just standing there like?
Well, no, I'm just looking at like every time he flashed to the sideline, he's sitting over there on the bench, and it doesn't look like he knows where he's at.
There are a couple times where his offensive line had to help him because it looked like he was stumbling a little bit, and his offensive line had to kind of help him out a little bit. There were a couple times where I'm like, "Oh, is he all right? Is something okay with him?"
I don't think he was all there because he took a pretty big bang off the turf with his head. I mean, that was a DG type of hit that he had last year against TCU, and I don't think he was 100%. And I think if that Murphy was there, I think they would have put him in the game.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have Portal News live on air. Not that we are breaking it. That all credit goes to Hayes Fawcett there. But Alabama wide receiver Shaz Preston plans to enter the transfer portal. I don't think that this is a super surprising move. Jance, I released a video earlier saying that Bama right now, scholarship limit, they are in the mid-90s. Got to get to 85. Chaz Preston is a very, very talented player. Someone is going to be unbelievably happy with the wide receiver they get out the transfer portal. He's a playmaker, a do-it-all type wide receiver. So that's going to be one to watch. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where he goes. I'm not super surprised by the move just because I knew that there'd be wide receiver movement. You look at maybe linebacker movement. Not surprised to see it, but really, really talented player. Jance, what are your thoughts?
I'm not surprised by this. I thought he was a very, very talented kid. A lot of people compared him to Jamar Chase because of the Louisiana kind of roots and just his overall talent that he was able to kind of display. Just couldn't really find himself on the field. Maybe next year could have been the year for it, but I think Alabama they're loaded when it comes to the talent at the receiving room. He just couldn't get the opportunity. I think he also had a battle with injuries as well, so I think that just didn't really kind of help his cause. I hope he gets another opportunity. I wouldn't be surprised personally if he goes to LSU because LSU was a top option. Maybe Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin. Maybe that's another potential option. But I think again, typically when you see a lot of homebred Louisiana kids, they typically go back to LSU as a top option, especially some of these top playmakers. Last year, Aronson did that. Alabama guy, extremely talented kid, went to LSU because LSU was a top option. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if Chaz goes there. But whoever gets him, they're going to get a hell of a player, extremely talented guy, and just best luck to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like this one by Steven, USC, because Lincoln Riley's actually lost quite a few wide receivers in the portal this year.
Yeah,
and he's got a couple
all
of
they can get.
Yeah, so he'll be looking for somebody. But Texas, Texas tries to go pick up all those former elite wide receivers.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but it's going to be interesting to see where he goes. And also, Jim says, what receiver recruit thinks he's going to get the ball after watching that mess? Man, one bad game isn't going to be the end or be all. I mean, you look at Alabama's wide receiver class right now. You have Amari Jefferson, who had an incredible season. You have Rico Scott, who had an incredible season. Aaron Hampton is coming to play wide receiver there. He was being recruited as a defensive back. And then you got Ryan Williams. And Ryan Williams is different, right? Just an unbelievable talent. In 2025, you have Jamie French, 5-star wide receiver. So the wide receivers will come. You look at Alabama's history of putting wide receivers in the NFL draft, and they have that. They have
you guys got Caleb Odom coming in at tight end, but
he's going to be good.
Hey, you guys got Julian Sayin coming in at quarterback. Who knows? Maybe this is the year true freshman takes over.
I don't think he's going to be ready. I think from a physical standpoint, he's not even ready. He's like $180, and when you take a look at him, he's got to get bigger. I think he's got to get to at least. They're going to try to get him to at least 195 by the season, but he's got to. I think from a physical standpoint, it may take him about a year or two. The quarterback I'm looking for, if there's going to be anybody that's going to be challenging Miro, is Ty Simpson. Ty Simpson's the only guy because he now has a year in this offense. We've seen his development from the South Florida game to what we saw from him during the Kentucky game and the Chattanooga game. We've seen how he's starting to slowly grow and be comfortable in this Ty Maurice offense. And to be fair, I mean, like I said, if Ty Simpson would have had a shot against Middle Tennessee, who's to say that he wouldn't play as good? I mean, I think that quarterback competition was more closer than I think people kind of give that credit to. Now I think Jalen Murray.
You say that. Because Kyle was telling me that it was, but it wasn't Ty Simpson that he was telling me.
It was Buckner. Yeah, it was Buckner.
Dylan Lonergan.
Oh, Dylan Lonergan.
Kyle said Dylan Lonergan was the guy that they thought would take the job.
Could do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's not surprising.
I thought it would be Simpson as well.
That's not surprising at all. No, that's not surprising. But Ty was the one, I think, during the season, I think has shown at least the most progression. Now, that could also mean, too, that maybe Dylan Lonergan was just that far ahead from just a overall IQ standpoint, potentially, because he just had a maybe better grasp of the playbook compared to Ty. And then Ty was able to kind of, once the season was able to develop, he got better and he started to get a grasp of it because he started to be a lot more comfortable in the pocket. And then, of course, you started to see that arm talent. You started to see the throws that he could make going through his progressions, getting off the hot read and going through, focusing on the check down, running it when he needed to, go through the second, third, fourth, scan, his ability to kind of process the information was a lot faster than Milroe for what I was able to kind of see. So I think from a passing standpoint, at least him coming into this year, he has the advantage. Milroe is somebody that for the most part, he's also developed first year in this offense. He's gotten, compared to what he was from the first game, tremendous development. But obviously he's got to take the next step. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens next year as far as if there's going to be an open quarterback competition, because I hate to say it, is this a Jalen Hurts situation where you have Jalen Hurts, spectacular first-year quarterback, Jalen Hurts, second-year guy, but he had a guy in Tua Tagovailoa who was clearly the more advanced passer. And clearly the more advanced passer. But because of the loyalty, we stuck with Jalen Hurts. He won us a lot of games until the national championship where we went with the better quarterback. So it's something that's interesting, because if Jalen Murrow can't get better, and this is saying if he can't get better, I believe he can. I'm not one of these Bama fans that's riding off the hype train. I think he can get better. Looking at his development from year one, tremendous development. But it's clear, it's obvious he's got to get better. Ty Maurice has got to get better as a play caller, and Jalen Murrow has got to get better as a quarterback. He's got to get better as a quarterback. We know what he can do as an athlete. We know what he can do as a runner, even though I think he actually needs to get better at that, because he carries that ball way too loosely. He's inconsistent when it comes to switching his arm, hence why it's caused a lot of fumbles. And even his running motions and his running stances, you saw how many times he was able to kind of trip in that game just off of his own feet, because of just how it's weird how he kind of runs a little bit as well. I think he needs to kind of improve on that. But it's clear and obvious if Bama wants to win a national championship, he's got to get better overall as a player. And we've seen Nick Saban at times go in different directions. Hence that 2018 open battle between Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa, where you could have went with Hurts, and Hurts could have put you in the exact same situation and probably could have got you the national championship. But he went with the better quarterback that could be more extensive to open the playbook. And I wonder, do we have somebody on that roster currently right now that can do that?
Listen, it's you would assume it's always an open quarterback competition, but yeah, listen, Jalen Milrow's got to continue getting better. I'm with you, Jance. I absolutely think he can based on the development we saw. But Tommy Rees, he's got to get better as well, man.
He's got to get better, yes.
He reverted to some early year stuff there. Now, Brinsky, we're in here talking about Shaz Preston entering the transfer portal, man. What's your thoughts?
Not surprised. It was only a matter of time. That wide receiver room was pretty packed, and especially the guys that we bringing in, he haven't really seen the field almost his entire time there, so it's no surprise.
Yeah, not really super surprising there. He's gonna be good for someone. I am excited to see where he ends up going. Now, PG, go ahead, Brinsky. I'm sorry.
No, you good. I don't know if his brother still play for Mississippi State, do it?
Ooh, I don't know about that.
Because I remember his brother playing for them. That was the only time I ever seen him play on the football field, when he seen his brother on the field. But if his brother's still there, and then they got a new head coach, that could be a spot for him.
Tino asks, is Ryan Williams starter year one next season? Listen, if he can add a bit more weight, I don't know about full-time starter, but he will see the field, right? Like, he will be in the rotation. He's too good. Yeah, he is just way, way too good. Dougie, you got to chill out, man. Asking me to stay put and all that. No. Does Tommy Rees stay offensive coordinator for Bama? I believe so. Listen, Tommy Rees had a rough start to the year. Jance and I were furious, right? I was excited to move on from Bill O'Brien. Early in the season, it wasn't going well. Then we get to the point where it looks like everything's coming together, and then it gets to the Michigan game, and it looks like there's no cohesive game plan. It is what it is. But PG, Oklahoma's been in the transfer portal, getting another defensive back this week. Let's talk about some transfer portal stuff. What was your thoughts on the newest addition?
Hey, whenever you can get somebody talented like that for a PWO, like, how can you not be excited? Oklahoma's really adding to the depth of that cornerback position and really adding size. So when you go back and you listen to Oklahoma fans' concerns over the past couple of years, it's getting the Jaden Davises and guys like that who are under 6 foot and we're really out there just struggling. So I believe he comes in at 6'1". I believe he was 190. And then you also got Des Malone out of the portal from San Diego State at 6'2", 200. So I think it's still out whether or not Woody Washington's going to return. I heard he was leaving, but then some people say he's staying. So who knows what that cornerback room is going to look like. But no, they've done a really good job at getting guys out of the portal for that position. And then you've got a lot of really young talent there. Josiah Wagner, who you heard nothing but great things about in fall camp. You have guys like Makari Vickers, who was somebody that Alabama really wanted. So I'm not really worried about Oklahoma when it comes to the cornerback position. But I'm wanting to see what they do on the offensive line. So you get Spencer Brown at the offensive tackle position from Michigan State, but there's actually been concern from Oklahoma fans over the past couple of days of whether or not Spencer Brown is still committed to Oklahoma or if he'll end up back at Michigan State, because he's taken down everything Oklahoma on his Twitter and his Instagram. You go look at it, it's all Michigan State stuff again. So I know there's a little bit of concern there, but he's reaffirmed his commitment to multiple people that he's with Oklahoma. So we'll kind of have to watch that. But you get Fabichi Wewu out of the portal from North Texas, really talented at that guard spot. And then there's a couple prospects that hit the portal that I really like that I think Oklahoma could go out there and get, especially one from Kansas, Armaj Reed Adams. I believe he played over 600 snaps at the guard position. And again, that's a spot where Oklahoma is really going to need to get somebody. So you look at him, there's a kid out from Florida. And then there was another guy that I have on my list that I just don't have in front of me at the moment. So portal's active for Oklahoma. And there's still a lot of guys to going out there to get. And I feel like over the next couple of days, as we see more guys enter, you'll see Oklahoma potentially throw out more offers. And then you're also on the list for Nick Scorton, who I've talked to a couple times, and he's told me, hey, like Oklahoma, like very well interested in that program. I want to get there for a visit. I know a lot of people have their eyes set on A&M. Obviously, Missouri's on that list. So if you're an Oklahoma fan, you look at this and say, oh, it's probably an NIL battle. But if Oklahoma gets him on campus, I fully expect Oklahoma to land Nick Scorton as well.
Yeah, I know you'll have that visit coming up January 6th, if I'm not mistaken. He's going to OU, right?
Yeah, he's going to like OU. I think he's going to Missouri before. He's going to A&M before. And then I think, is LSU the other school on there? I think LSU is the other school.
It might be LSU. Do y'all get last visit?
Yes, we get last visit. But that we have to keep him from committing, though, before all those other visits.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. No doubt. That's the double-edged sword of this, right? If you can get them from committing. But I've always said this, PG. It's in recruiting and in transfer portal. I'm going to give this caveat, though I don't think I really should. I think everybody here understands this is a savvy crowd. Nothing is guaranteed in recruiting and transfer portal. I like getting that last visit because it's impressions, man. Like it's fresh in your mind. If you can impress, they have everything to compare it to, and that can really work in your favor. But like PG says, the flip side of that is if he goes somewhere and is blown away and commits right then and there, though one could argue that it would be likely to happen either way.
It's A&M on the 3rd, FSU on the 4th, Mizzou on the 5th, and then Oklahoma on the 6th. And I know NIL is going to be a part of it, but I'm from talking to the kid, I really think there's a really good chance Oklahoma could land him. I'm just not setting my hopes high because we said the same thing about Chris McClellan. We've said the same thing about David Hicks and him hitting the portal. And at this point, I'm kind of like, until I see it at this point, I'm not believing it because we've gotten our hopes up way too many times.
Well, another name entering the portal. Now, this wasn't while we were live, but Jance, I want to start with you on this. Liberty quarterback Caden Salter, 6'1", 195 pounds, threw for 2,876 yards and 32 touchdowns, and added over 1,000 yards rushing on the grounds and 12 touchdowns.
Yeah, I like Caden.
Man,
yep.
I mean, transfer portal is booming. Thoughts on that? And Auburn, team to watch for that. It seems no, like it just makes sense. They've got to get a quarterback.
Yeah, well, Auburn's trying to get every quarterback. They try to tell us that they were going to try to get Cam Ward, as soon as they get Cam, as soon as they officially declared that Cam Ward was going to go to Auburn, he makes his video declaring for the NFL draft. So, I mean, I'm not going to take that out. They desperately need a quarterback, especially with all the 5 stars that they kind of got over their receiver. They need somebody to throw the football because we all know that Peyton Thorne can't really do it over there. But no, I mean, I think realistic standpoint, Auburn could be a good fit. Simply because of what Hugh Freeze does with that offense. I think that could be a perfect fit for him, especially because he's a rushing quarterback, especially because he can run the football, get 1,000 yards rushing on the ground. He's very fast, very, very quick, very fast guy. Not the biggest quarterback in the world, but he is a quarterback that ideally can fit Hugh Freeze's scheme. So wouldn't be surprised at all if that does happen. Some other places that I can see, I mean, I think Wisconsin, they're trying to really evolve their offense. Iowa's trying to really evolve their offense. Their defense is always going to be stacked, but they're really trying to take that. So I think that could be the consideration depending on who Iowa kind of gets. I think Washington is something that could be a fit. I mean, look at what Duval's doing with Michael Penix. Why wouldn't that be a destination for a lot of quarterbacks to try to go towards? He's definitely going to be one of the quarterbacks that I think a lot of people are going to try to get. Washington State, they just lost Cam Ward. They have one of the best passing coordinators and one of the best passing minds in football. So that could be another good destination, depending on where that kind of goes. Especially Washington State, they're going to the big. Aren't they in the Big 12 next year?
No, Washington State and Oregon State are
they're
staying
the
in the
two teams kind of left
Pac-12.
in limbo.
Yeah, they're the ones. They're staying in the Pac-12, but they got like this deal with the Mountain West where they're playing their conference games, but they're not allowed to play in the conference championship game for the Mountain West. They just need to get picked up.
This reaction right there. He just instantly Jesus.
Jason. Okay, well, but still, I mean, they from a coaching standpoint, they still got some really, really good passing matches. Look what Cam Ward and some of the weapons they have there. So, very, very talented quarterback. Had a hell of a season with Liberty. But we'll see what happens. Auburn, that is a name to look out for. Just knowing Hugh Freeze and knowing the type of quarterbacks that he can attract and knowing the playmakers, they're going to get a lot better from a skill position standpoint. That is a name to watch out for. But Washington, and my bet would probably go to Washington. That's my bet.
Ooh. Jeez, that's dangerous, especially if they hang on to the offensive coordinator head coach duo. And if they can go there, that'd be interesting. Brinsky, what are you thinking, my man?
I'm about to say I could have sworn Washington just got somebody in the transfer portal.
What?
I thought they just got a quarterback a couple of weeks ago. I'm not 100% sure. That's why I was thinking so hard when Jant said that. But
Mike, I appreciate the effort right here. I may have been born at night, but it wasn't last night, and you're not going to get me this time.
Are you talking about Washington or Washington State?
No, Washington.
They've only gotten an offensive tackle. They haven't had portal entries, and they've only gotten one guy out of the portal.
Yeah, Will Rogers. That's what I said. I thought Washington got somebody, but it was
Will Rogers in? He transferred.
Yeah, he went to Washington.
Okay, well.
Wait, Will Howard's going to Washington?
Oh no,
Rogers, the Mississippi State quarterback.
Yeah.
Shout out to KD35. I'm the best. But yeah, you said it best with Auburn. That's the most likely spot. I'm about to say that's his former head coach. He brought him into Liberty, so I wouldn't see anything else happening. He could more than likely bring him to Auburn, especially with all them 5 stars. So yeah, that's more likely because Peyton Thorne is just not it. They're not going to get far. They're just going to keep being average.
They got him. It is non-negotiable for them to go in the direction, especially after getting the wide receiver talent they did. It is non-negotiable that they have got to go and get a quarterback.
Because I thought they were going to get Grayson McCall, but that was
because they keep him there. I can see some of those guys transferring out the very next year if he doesn't get nobody in there because they're not getting the ball to show off their talent.
T Boomer says, Ty, I think Bama should have run the ball more because y'all's running back was on fire. Yeah, no,
I mean, we should have. We had 200 yards. I mean, minus the Jalen Miro sacks, which again I have no idea where that counts. We had 225 yards rushing on them, and we went away from it.
Completely agree, T Boomer. And Justice Haynes, man, I'm excited to see him. Y'all already know I love me some Jace. I love me some Jason McClellan, but Justice Haynes is going to be so much fun to watch. Alabama cannot wait. Tino asks, where's Will Howard, Malachi Nelson going? Tino, I apologize. We were in several conversations. I've seen several of your questions, including AP top 4 next year, as well as Heisman. A little early for me to give both of those predictions just because I don't know what the transfer portal is going to net for any of these teams quite yet. So I'll hold off on those. But these right here, these are some interesting names, gentlemen. Malachi Nelson, former 5-star, one of the top quarterbacks in the nation, entering the transfer portal. What are y'all thinking as it relates to him? And then there's also Will Howard out there. PG, I'll start with you, and then we'll go Jansen, Brinsky.
Yeah, so for Malachi Nelson, the 2 schools that watch there are Miami and Houston. And then for Will Howard, it seems like it's pretty much moved on from USC, and it seems like Ohio State probably should win that one within the week. So it sounds like Will Howard's pretty much a lock to Ohio State, and then you've got Malachi Nelson to Miami or Houston.
I love that Keaton's asking how I'm holding up.
Yeah, Will Howard's good. Yeah, that's a lock for Ohio State. I think a lot of fans are confident too that he's going to go there. The problem with that is I don't think Will Howard's going to be good enough for Ohio State. I just don't. I don't think that Will Howard is that next level guy that's going to take him over the hump, especially when you're in a much deeper Big Ten conference. So I think they're going to be once again going to either to the transfer portal or they're gonna have to find a way to develop Devin Brown or some of those quarterbacks that they have there.
As far as the other quarterback, though, I think it's going to be that kid that they got from North Dakota.
Yeah,
in the 22 class. Kienholz, is that his name? Kienholz?
Kienholz, yeah. Because and Devin Brown, it sucks that he got hurt because that was an opportunity to see what he can try to do. And the fact that he literally got out in less than 5 plays was just that sucked for him. Malachi Nelson, I thought Oregon, no, they got Dylan Gabriel, so that'll be out of the equation.
And they got Dante Moore.
And they got Dante. Yeah, exactly. Dante Moore is over there. Yeah, exactly. Which is stacked. Malachi Moore is interesting. He's a very interesting name to kind of watch. I think Mario Cristobal desperately needs a quarterback, just like how Auburn was trying to get Cam Ward and how one of their, they had a couple insiders that tried to confirm it. It was, he decided to declare for the draft. Miami, though, they desperately need a quarterback. They desperately need it because they can't really develop. I don't know. Mario Cristobal, elite recruiter. But when it comes to developing that quarterback's position, he just can't do it. Just cannot do it. I mean, Justin Herbert was already a really good quarterback before Mario Cristobal even got to Oregon. The problem was that Justin Herbert was not even surrounded with talent, and a lot of Oregon fans will even debate to this day that that offensive scheme that was with Justin Herbert held back his true potential.
I do.
It's going to be a tough ask, watching how these quarterbacks are. Tyler Van Dyke had a pretty good season in 21 and then just fell flat off the earth the last couple seasons. I just don't really see him kind of going there. Florida State's, I think DJ Uiagalelei, he's at Florida State now. It'll be interesting. I heard Florida, for some reason, we're in some rumblings. Now they're falling apart as a program, so I don't really see them going there as well. I don't know. It's interesting. I think Miami would be the biggest name, and I think it would make sense in a way because Miami's got a lot of talent. They got a lot of talent that's returning back for them, but the problem is that their offensive scheme is terrible. Just terrible, and it's not a good fit for quarterbacks. So it's interesting to see what happens around.
And the problem is Malachi Moore is not even that great. But I think are we all forgetting about Malik Hornsby because he hit the portal today, and he had a pretty good year at Texas State. Like he could be an option for somebody.
Good point, no doubt about it. And
I thought TJ Finley played at Texas State.
That's what I thought too.
Well, TJ Finley was at Texas State.
But My
Yeah,
fault.
I'm
Go ahead.
just looking at the transfer portal and it shows that he's in there. So,
But I don't know if he was there
and by the way,
last
when
year.
you say Malachi Moore, it's Malachi Nelson.
We knew what you were talking
Yeah,
about. Yeah, but that whole Will Howard to Ohio State, that's news to me. I just don't see that. It just don't even feel like a fit, man. I just don't like him as a quarterback. I don't even like the hype around him or whatnot. Ever since that Texas game, man, it just been. I just looked at him as a quarterback totally different. So him going to Ohio State and all that pressure, and then you talking about facing Michigan this year, was more than likely ain't gonna have Harbaugh. I guess.
Yeah, but they might have Brian Kelly. So, man, can listen? Can we talk about the disarray that this Ohio State fan base is about to be in if they lose to a Michigan team with a first-year head coach and Brian Kelly?
Oh, God's mercy!
Mhm.
I don't think they can handle it, PG.
Like, I mean, that fan base is about to burn. I mean, it's bad.
Yeah, it can't be. No. I'm not even gonna put that in there.
It'll be interesting to see if Brian Kelly does go there because it's like because the only reason why he went to LSU was because he wanted more freedom when it comes to recruiting. He wanted to spend a bigger budget, and if he goes if he goes to Michigan, they're not gonna. I mean, like I said, Michigan has the money. They have the money if they want to. The problem is they spread it out evenly to their athletic program. They don't just pour it all on football. So,
but I think
not
Brian
gonna really
Kelly's a
have
better
full control.
college coach than Jim Harbaugh. So
I agree. Yes, I agree.
Than Jim Harbaugh, and so I think you'll see Michigan land these 5 stars that we've seen them whiff on over the past couple of years. And who knows? Maybe the rise of Michigan will come back.
So y'all think Harbaugh is gone too?
If he wins
he's
the national championship, he's taking that Chargers job.
Yeah, he's or here's another team to watch out for. PG, my Bills. We don't make the playoffs.
Let it go.
Or we lose. Or are we losing the first round? He's Jeremy out.
Hey, you guys want
said
Lincoln
let it
Riley?
go.
That's who you all want. You want Lincoln Riley?
No, you know.
You want this man to be depressed.
You know what? You know what? And the only reason why I can't be too mad at that because I know Josh Allen would have 5,000 yards passing, 700 yards rushing, and he'll have like 20 rushing touchdowns. I know he will put up some of those ridiculous stats ever, but it's literally the 80s Miami Dolphins, how our offense is elite, but our defense is absolute crap. But because
the thing that you have to remember is
playoffs and then losing the biggest game.
Lincoln Riley in an NFL organization might not be in charge of hiring his own defensive coordinator. That might be in the hands of the general manager. So
yeah,
it might be a different show in the NFL because he's not going to have as much pull and leeway there.
Yeah, the problem is Brandon Beane is he's more of a general manager that he kind of dictates what the head coach wants. So whatever the head coach, at least what sort of players or what type of coaches because Lincoln Riley would be in charge of that. But as far as players that he will kind of want to get, whatever players he wants, Brandon Beane was okay. Whatever sort of player you kind of want, we'll try to get that type. So if you want a speedster receiver, we'll try to get a speedster. If we want to tackle that kind of can fit whatever scheme you want to try to get, we'll try to tackle. Like Brandon Beane's he's one of the easiest general managers to work with because he doesn't really go out and do his own thing. He asks the coach, "What do you want?" and then I'll try to get whatever you want to try to get. So Lincoln Riley's he'll be like a co-GM in a way because our owner's not gonna do crap. Our owner's kind of like you know what, you'll take it. I'll just be in the corner eat pizza all day. So
man,
Lincoln Riley will probably have a lot more power than people would expect.
Man, you already have the quarterback. My team has currently the 2nd pick in the draft. I'm just hoping that we can just get a quarterback and build on our offensive line.
Your Bears?
No, Washington.
Oh, hey, I didn't think Sam Howell played that bad for y'all this year. In fact, I think you get him a couple weapons, he might be a pretty decent.
He got the weapons. The line is just god awful. But
yeah,
I'm just not. I want us to get Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams and build our offensive line through the draft and free agency.
Yeah, did you see last year when Eric Bieniemy went to the Commanders that they called? This was a real thing. They called the Chiefs and asked if Patrick Mahomes was available.
Typical.
I'm like,
Jesus Christ, man. I didn't even know that, but that is typical. That is.
I saw that because I'm a Chiefs fan. I saw that and I'm just like, that has got to be the biggest joke I've ever seen in my life. Like,
why didn't they ask Baltimore like, hey, Lamar, like you don't want to pay him? We'll take Lamar Jackson.
Man, they was complaining when the players were complaining, talking about he's working us too hard. I was like, oh my God, that's when I almost lost it right there. I like, bro, whoever said that, kick them all off.
So Tino's asking about Evan Stewart.
Yeah, let's talk.
This recruitment is starting to sound a little wild. It sounds like there's a lot of off-field stuff that needs to be taken care of for Evan Stewart that I'm not sure some of these top programs are going to want to take on right now.
Well, he released a little bit of a statement today, and let me look it up.
Something about he wants to find a team that can help figure out what's wrong with his physical health and then help him with his mental health. But, I mean, I'm going to be honest. Look at programs like Alabama and Oklahoma, which are two programs that have actually been talked about as landing spots. Their wide receiver rooms are full. Yeah, you would take a guy like Evan Stewart, but that means you got to push somebody else out. And there's a likely chance that Evan Stewart's not going to be able to perform at the level that you want him to that first year. So I think Evan Stewart's probably going to have to take a chance at a lower tier school or go to a school like Miami that's desperate, but you're probably not going to get that kind of care that you're looking for.
Florida State's one to watch, especially with Keon Coleman and Wilson heading to the draft. No,
I don't think he want DJ throwing him the ball. I just can't see it.
When Tennessee backs when they back out of it, that's how you know it's a problem, because Tennessee needs all the help they can get at receiver.
They backed out of it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, they backed out. They backed out of it. They are no longer in the race. So
wow. It got to be something major then.
Yeah. So I mean, the physical. I mean, I didn't even know he had mental issues that he was really kind of dealing with, but that's yeah. And sometimes you may have to take that year up. I always kind of use this example, like Antonio Fano, who was like the number one composite player in the 24/7 sports, talented as all hell, but just couldn't get right things mentally. Like he had a tough break with him and he had a very, very tough break during his freshman year. Never was the same guy. Went to like a couple different places, and then he went to JUCO. He even kind of said that, taking like a year off from football and just focusing on mental health was like the best thing possible, because I was going down a rough road. And thankfully I think he had over 20 offers coming out of JUCO. So I forgot which school he's going to, but he's getting his life back on track. So if Evan Stewart, if he needs to take a year off, just to kind of get that right, then so be it. Because sometimes even with all the NIL and crap like that, forcing the issue is not going to help.
Yeah, and see, he's got to go to, and this is my thing, he's got to go to a program that is willing to take him and say, all right, well, we're not going to play you. We will figure out what's physically wrong with you, give you the year for mental health, and hope that you can get a medical red shirt. So now you have 2 years left after that. I just don't see where Evan Stewart can land at a top tier program right now, where a lot of these wide receiver rooms are just getting full.
Yeah, listen, I think he's unbelievably talented, and hearing that anybody needs help with their mental health, by all means, Jance, I think you put it perfectly. If you need to take that year off, life's bigger than football. And in order for you to play your best, you have to feel good, right? Like mentally, physically. So if you need to take that time, by all means, I think that's great. But it is interesting that Tennessee out of the race. Reports early on, whenever we all thought that it was likely he could come to Bama because of the past relationship, and so many people thought he was going to Bama out of high school. And then you get reports from 1-3 saying Bama and Texas aren't expected to really pursue all that much. And now Tennessee.
This is actually sad.
Yeah, no, I hope that he's able to get on track, because he has otherworld ability, so talented. Got to see him live at a 7-on-7 event down here. And you could just tell right then and there, he is super, super talented. Tino asked, chances on Deontay Lawson and Terrion Arnold returning to Bama.
Well,
I think Deontay Lawson,
do
you think he's going to officially stay, or do you think once they get those exit grades, he's going to decide to go ahead and move on, Jance?
Who, for Terrion?
I know he said
Deontay.
Terrion. I know he said he had unfinished business, but Man, it almost sounds too good to be true. I hope he's back because that dude's ridiculous.
Yeah. I thought he made the official statement that he's just
not official yet.
Okay, well, he's a first round talent. I mean, I'm not even worried about the grades. The dude's going in the first round if he decides to go. I mean, there's no way in hell. I talked to a couple of former scouts that coach that used to coach for the Bills. They graded him. They said this dude is above a 90. This dude, a lot of people consider him to be the number one corner in the draft, and he's a freak. He's a freak athlete. The dude can play at safety. He can play at star. He can play as a boundary corner. That dude's versatility is gonna be a big reason why his draft stock is gonna rise up because some people think that he can play at safety at elite level. Some people think that he can play as a base nickel at elite level. Some people think that in a zone scheme or even sometimes even a man coverage scheme, he can play at elite level. So if he decides to go out, he will be a first round pick. But knowing how they lost that game and knowing just how emotional and just hearing some of the stories about how emotional that locker room was, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he just decides to come back just to get that out of his way. Because the way that they lost that game and just that's a tough way to go out when you literally played one of your worst games of the year against Michigan. Like schematically, you got out coached, and there were so many times of miscommunication, so many times where where it wasn't, they out bullied us, or I would even say like some of their play designs weren't even that surprising. It was just that it was just so much miscommunication in the back end that players are going to feel like, okay, you know what? I got to come back. There's no way in hell I'm going out that way. So Terrion and Deontay are both players that I think could potentially come back. But I think other than that, I think everyone else will probably leave.
Yeah.
Now,
go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. Because I was going to maybe change the subject.
Oh yeah. Well, without a doubt, I believe both of them come back, and I think having that back end with him, Caleb, Terry, Trey Amos. I'm trying to see who's going to play the other safety spot, either Devontae or Story, one of them. Or I don't know who's going to play the star. It could be
probably Earl Little.
Probably Earl Little. But I feel like Dez Ritz could be fighting for one of those positions. I don't know. If it's anything, it's going to be star. But only time would tell. But a lot of those guys like Kool-Aid and Dallas. Well, Dallas announced yesterday he was gone, but that was pretty obvious. Kool-Aid is gone. So yeah, a lot of those guys are coming back, man. I just don't think they like how they just lost. They know they let that game go, and we could have won that game. So it's going to be interesting to see who's going to come back in these next couple of weeks.
Got a lot of portal news coming down the drain, gentlemen. Not necessarily right now, but during the next few days, there will be a lot of movement. Like I said, Alabama currently in the mid-90s for scholarships, got to get down to 85. So there's going to be a lot of players entering the transfer portal. A lot of them aren't going to come as surprises, but let's be honest, this is college football. This is the transfer portal. There will inevitably be a surprise or two in there. And going to be interesting to see who that is. Now, PG, you had something.
Yeah, so I'm not sure how much you guys have actually been paying attention to the Under Armour All-American camp, but Oklahoma has got, they've got a couple guys out there. And Eugene Brooks, I don't know if you guys have seen the videos of him, but he's been absolutely out there dominating some of these defensive linemen.
He's a killer, dude. That dude's going to be a monster.
Yeah. So right now he's the number 149th ranked player in the country. He's a composite 4-star. What are the odds that Eugene Brooks scratched top 50 after that? Because it seems like all of the recruiting experts were, just blown away by his performances against guys like Dalen Evans, who they have ranked as a top 50 defensive lineman. And then not to mention, you've got guys like David Stone going out there and looking like one of the best interior defensive linemen on that whole thing. Williams Nwaneri was, I'm shocked that he did not show out the way that I think we all expected him to. Was there any takeaways from the Under Armour All-American game, or just practices?
Well, you saw what David Stone said when he got pissed off that On3 just couldn't move him up. He's, who knows? Maybe politics. It could be a little involved. But no, it's just no. I've been watching that. I was watching both their tapes. These guys were killers. David Stone, he held his own, did a great job. But the other kid, man, that dude was a surprise. That dude was a killer. I can't wait to see what he kind of does out there. But other than that, no, I didn't really watch that much of the Under Armour. I was so focused on of course, on Bama and Michigan and some of the other playoff matchups. But no, David Stone's comment of on 3 and these
It's
other
kinda
kind of
funny.
composite
It's kinda
rankings is
funny.
pretty damn funny.
No, and then they also got Daniel Akinkumi out there as well, the kid from New England, and apparently he's really been shown out. So Oklahoma's offensive line problems might be solved by freshmen. I mean, that's BJ Brooks was out there, I mean, one-handing defensive linemen. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, listen, Oklahoma, the offensive line in your bowl game, I didn't think it was awful the whole game, but it had its moments where it was just like, man, got to get something in here. But at the end of the day, that's where recruiting and development comes in. And luckily for y'all, Bill Bedenbaugh, synonymous with development at offensive line at Oklahoma. Look at what he's put into the NFL draft. James says Kings from England, not New England, but, you know, he just wanted to freshen it up a little bit, man.
Georgia quarterback Julian Humphreys enters the portal.
Yep. Julian Humphrey in the portal. So a lot of portal news, guys. And also Oregon State standout wide receiver Silas Bolden has entered the transfer portal.
Oh, that's a big one.
746 yards this season. Matt Zenitz is the one who broke the news.
This is going to be some quiet news, but Brew McCoy is announcing that he's returning.
Tennessee's got to have it.
Yep.
Got to have it. They need the help at the wide receiver position. They need burners in the wide receiver position for that Heupel scheme. Brew McCoy, solid wide receiver for them, but he is more of a possession-style wide receiver. They need burners, which to Jance's point earlier, if y'all were listening, Jance always out here spitting game, why it's surprising they're not in the Evan Stewart sweepstakes still. They need wide receivers like Evan Stewart. Big reason why, Jance, I thought it was such a big miss for Tennessee to miss on Amari Jefferson. I mean, that kid right there would have been a big-time win for Tennessee with his skill set coming in there. But I'm very happy that he – you're good, man. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I was about to say, the way that their scheme is, they need burners. The way that they kind of play their offense and how they like to play on the hashes and how they like to kind of split up those guys. They need burners because Jalen Hyatt was an obvious miss from this season. They just were not the same team without him. So I mean, Brew McCoy, big, tall, kind of possession type receiver. He's not the fastest dude. He's more of a possession type guy. But no, they don't really have burners. They don't have speed, and it'll be interesting to see what they can do.
They got they got Mike Matthews coming in this year, and I think Mike he's going to start as a freshman. But I understand what you're saying. You need the speedsters and all that, but they need more wide receivers. But I'm just very high on Mike Matthews, so I can't wait to see how he plays.
That's fair. He's been showing out from what I've seen. They just put out a little list of some performance at the All-American Bowl, but unfortunately, I'm kind of like Jance. I haven't really been paying attention. Granted, I was on vacation and not really as tapped in as I needed to be, only really focused on the playoff games, but it is what it is. We're back in the swing of it now, and we're going to have a lot more to talk about. Tino asks, is Elijah Pritchett still at Bama? Indeed. Steven asked, question for the panel, who right now is the top 5 SEC teams? That's tough to say just because I don't know how the portal is going to shake out for all these teams. We got to see what guys return, what guys leave. So we'll talk about that here at the end of the month, Steven, because I'll have a better view of what the SEC will look like the end of January, beginning of February. We'll dive into all of that, but that is going to be an insanely fun conversation. Gentlemen, we've been going for almost an hour and 30 minutes. We're going to go ahead and hop off of here. That way we can all go eat, do our things. But as always, y'all know I'm not going to let you off here until you plug up your own content. We're going to reverse it this time. We're going to go Jance Brinsky and then PG.
Oh. Okay, yeah. Okay, well, this is new. Okay, I was not ready for that. All right, Jant716 on Twitter, Jant Sports on YouTube. Now I was about to plug in something else, but we will talk about that. But that's for a later conversation. But yeah, Ty, you shocked me, man. What's going on? What's going on with you, brother?
I got to keep you on your toes, my man.
Wow, that threw me off.
Yeah, he got me like that one time.
You got to keep him on his toes.
Well, I'm Branson Shaw, but my fault. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna tell Jess, you haven't been on here in a while. I gotta keep you on your toes, man.
Damn. Okay. Wow. Well, okay.
They said if you stay ready, you ain't gotta be ready.
Yeah, exactly. I gotta be prepared. Can't get caught lacking.
Well, I'm Branson Shaw, but the Sharpshooters podcast dropping every Wednesday, as always. We're 11 subs away from 300. And we're going to get there sometime this week. Hopefully it'll be today. But shout out to you guys. Jans for the shout out the other day. Definitely appreciate that, brother. PG for retweeting that. And congrats on the baby, my brother. And Ty, as always, for showing love. Thank y'all.
All right. Y'all can find me on YouTube or any of the places you guys find podcasts, The PG Show. So if you're in Oklahoma, go and watch that Thunder game tonight. Biggest Thunder game in probably in the past 10 years. Celtics at Thunder, number 1 and number 2 power rating.
Ooh-wee. Yeah, y'all's Thunder
I need
doing some things.
I need Chet to go off. I need Chet to go off in fantasy today, so I'll be cheering for the Thunder.
I bet we land Pascal Siakam in the trade deadline.
Oh, who you gonna give up? Are you gonna give up Josh Giddey?
We don't have to give up any players, man, dude. We got like 27 picks.
Damn.
First round.
All we got to do is say, hey, do you like first round picks? Because we got them.
They collecting them things like Infinity Stones.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch you next time. And now enjoy the resident end. Oh, by the way, Steven, you're 100% right. Also, be sure to go check out Jay Unfair Sports. Was on here earlier, had to run. Frequent of this channel. I'm sure everybody who's in here now is familiar with his content, but on the off chance you're not, once again, Unfair Sports, Jay Smith over there does a phenomenal job, always over here lending us his insight, and it is always a pleasure having him on here, getting those conversations. But until next time, you get to meet the 5th member of our cast, the Spinning Wheel of Doom.